The explosion in user adoption of mobile devices is really revolutionizing the web. There are websites that have been optimized for use on mobile devices or various resolutions and platforms out there, and there are websites that actually serve up a completely different website for a mobile device. So there's basically two main methods of doing this. You can use JavaScript to find out how the user is coming to the website, and if they're viewing your website via a desktop computer, you get one version of the website. If they're viewing the website via a mobile device, they actually get a completely separate version of the website. There is more of the responsive approach where you're going to actually be serving up the exact same website, and through the use of the CSS3 media queries, you're going to be augmenting the way the site looks and functions so that the user will have a more optimized experience. That's what we're going to be looking at in this course, but I want to show you some examples of both just so you're aware of what's going on. As I go through these examples, some of them you'll be able to actually see how the website would look on a smaller viewport. Those are the ones that are using the CSS3 media queries, and they are responding responsively to the size of the browser port. Some of the other websites, you'll notice when we change the browser port, they actually aren't going to physically change, but if you were to bring up the website on your mobile device, you would notice a drastically different website. So let's go ahead and take a look. The first one we're going to look at is going to be Target.com. So Target is actually using a completely different website on mobile devices. Here is the website from a desktop perspective, and you can see that they've got lots of information here. As I scroll down, more and more stuff is going to show up. So it's a lot of stuff, and of course they sell a lot of things. If I resize my browser window, what we actually get are scroll bars, both horizontally and vertically. The content is not changing or augmenting based on the size of my browser window. So my browser needs to be a specific width to not have those horizontal scroll bars. When I get below that width, then the horizontal scroll bars are going to appear, and obviously some of the content isn't going to fit on the screen. However, if you were to view the Target.com website on your handheld device, you would find that the website itself is actually functioning quite well on a handheld device, but it's actually delivering a completely different website. You're not going to get as many graphics, you're not going to have as much stuff on the website. When people create websites in this way, they're going to create websites where they're going to take things away that someone on a mobile might not want. Another website that does this is Hawaiian Airlines. So here's the Hawaiian Airline website, and this is what it looks like on a desktop computer. If I resize my browser window, I just get the scroll bars. None of the content changes, it doesn't reflow. But if I bring up this website on my mobile device, I actually get a fairly different looking website. It's not going to have the big images. The information that I would need to get is much more accessible. I just have a series of kind of like big action buttons of all the things that somebody might want to do when they're there. So manage your trip or buy ticket, find out prices, the main action items that somebody might want to do. So these are examples of websites that they do have a mobile version of the site, but they're actually serving up two completely different versions of the website, one for the desktop user and one for the mobile user. Before we jump into some responsive examples, we're going to look at a different website. This is actually Apple's website. And Apple's website, as I resize, I get the scroll bars. If you were to bring this up on your mobile device, you actually aren't going to get another version of their website. It's just going to be this exact same page, but just shrunk down, all kind of mini. And this is how your mobile device is going to function by default when you go to a website. If there is no mobile version, the mobile device is going to just shrink the content down. The disadvantage to this approach is that everything is very, very small, and as a user you're going to have to zoom in so that you can actually read the content, click the buttons, and get to the information that you want. So a different approach is creating a website that is responsive. It will respond to the user. And I have a couple examples of some sites that are doing that really well. The first one is Grey Goose Vodka. So here's Grey Goose Vodka's webpage, and they have this nice big picture. As I scroll down, different content is going to appear, and their website is actually very slick. It's very graphically intensive and very, very beautiful. If I change the size of my screen, you can see that all of the imagery is scaling down and changing, and at some point some of the content actually goes away. We lose like these little navigational elements right here. So here's the breakpoint, and then some of this content is going to disappear. The website still functions in the same way, but everything just gets smaller, it gets more simplified, and it's easier for a mobile user to be able to view this website and to be able to click it. The menu is up here, and if I click this, you can see that the buttons are nice and big. I can go ahead and hover over them and click them in an easier way. So this website is going ahead and displaying the content in a way that is more friendly for a mobile device. This is using the media queries that we were talking about earlier. Another website that's using this technique is the World Wildlife Federation. And the World Wildlife Federation, again, on their homepage anyways, they have lots of big imagery that grabs the user's attention. As I scale my screen down, you can see that the actual images are scaling, and we go from down here where we have a 4-column layout, it's going to switch to a 2-column layout so that the content isn't too small. The same content is there, it's just reflowing, and as I continue to decrease the size of my browser window, the content is just going to flow in a way that's going to make it a little bit more user friendly. The next example that we're going to look at is Barack Obama's website. Barack Obama was really one of the first political people to really realize the power of the internet and promote his campaign in a way that made it very user friendly. So this is what his website looks like on a desktop, type of view. As I resize down, you can see that the site changes. At one point we lose most of the imagery right here, and the main kind of call to action items are going to become much easier for a user to view and or act upon. So this is a great example of a responsive website design. The final one is the Boston Globe. The Boston Globe has tons and tons of information. All kinds of different news items are going to be here. You can see that on this main page when I first get here, as I scroll, only half of the page is scrolling, and that's because I have like this little kind of layout. There's a collapse button right here, and I can click this to collapse this. I'm not going to collapse it quite yet because I want to show you what happens when I change the layout. You can see that at a certain point in time, that kind of call to action to sign up for the Boston Globe actually collapses on its own. And that's because that big bar window is taking up half my screen. If I'm on a little tiny mobile device, that is not really optimizing my experience. It's kind of in the way. It's still down here. Here's the call to action button, but it's not taking over half of my screen. So you can see that the Boston Globe has quite a few different breakpoints. You can see how the site changes as I resize it. So let's just collapse this for a minute. Here it's down at the bottom. You can see that we have a multi-column layout. There's some advertisements going on over here on the right, and then as I resize, some of those items are going to change position. They're going to at some point disappear or just reflow into another part of the page completely, and they're really trying to deliver the information that the user is going to want to get. So if I come here on my mobile device, I'm coming here to get news. I don't want a bunch of advertisements. I mean, I don't really know when you ever want a bunch of advertisements, but of course that is a business model, so it is an important thing that we need to include on websites. You have more tolerance for it on a bigger screen. When you get to the little teeny tiny screens, that's something that you just don't want in your way. So we get rid of those on the smaller size screen to make the experience better for the end user. So in this way, this is a couple of examples of how responsive web development is being used out there in the real world. And if you just kind of start to become more aware of it, notice how sites work on your desktop computer. Notice how they work on your tablet device. Notice how they work on your handheld device, and really see how the different elements on the site change. Do they get smaller? Do they get larger? Do they disappear completely? Do they move position? These are all ways that you can really optimize the experience for the end user. Hopefully now you have a little bit more of an overview of what responsive web development is, and you'll be excited to start building your own responsive websites.